Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Guys, he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase. Yes, it does come with a fun Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15, like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the flamethrower button to learn more, or click the URL in the video description below. Lastly, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have EV manufacturer Scout wants to make EVs that you can actually repair. Kind of. Now, this comes to us thanks to thedrive.com, specifically Brian Hurd, who's a writer over there, in which he says, quote, Scout wants to build EVs you can fix yourself. Scout believes that easily damaged and frequently serviced parts should be screwed, not glued. Which, yeah, that's kind of the bane of existence for most mechanics, is dealing with the replacement of all that stuff and ungluing the crap and gluing it back together. Yet another issue of the government poking their nose in places it shouldn't be, and overregulation, making our lives even more miserable. Because, again, one of the reasons they did this a couple of decades ago in terms of introducing a massive use of actual adhesives versus screws, well, was weight savings. Because the EPA wants you to get 1,000,000 miles per gallon after, 100 million miles per gallon out of a little engine. And it becomes more and more difficult every year. And for the traditional internal combustion engine, usually every 100 pounds of weight you can take out of the vehicle results in about a 1% increase in fuel economy on average. So why Ford went from making steel F-150s to aluminum ones. They saved about 900 pounds, which adds up in the aggregate, all those savings, got about 9% better fuel economy, which the average consumer probably doesn't give a darn because it's a truck, but the EPA does fine your company if you don't have fleet averages for fuel economy, as well as tailpipe emissions. The government, I joke that, I usually say that, car companies don't make cars for you, they make them for the government. Because that's all the mandates they have to deal with. So that's traditionally why more companies have been using adhesives. A little bit lighter weight, and then in terms of cost and complexity, well, adhesives do cost a little bit less. Now, diving into the article, they say, quote, if you're sold on electric propulsion has been turned off by cars that have more in common with consumer gadgets than traditional automobiles, Scout Motors is offering a lifeline, an EV, but you can fix it yourself. Take one step further, cribbing from Jeep and Ford. Scout wants to make it so simple to replace body parts you're most likely to ding up, which would, again, be great for the consumer. I think there's an article about the Hummer EV, or was it one of the fanciest Teslas, where just one little bumper or one little fender replacement was like, $30,000? It was a comical amount of money. Now, they say, quote, that should be given if you ask us, but in 2025, the basic notion of right to repair is still somewhat a novel concept. And no, that's just not the Tesla thing. Ford as some people call it, GM, Honda, Nissan, Stellantis, Subaru, Tesla, Toyota, and Volkswagen, Scout's parent company, have been called out for their attitudeness towards that standard. So what will be different this time around? Well, we sat down with Scout Motors strategy director Ryan Decker at this week's Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas to get a feel for the company's approach to building off-road EVs. From what we're hearing, it's much about acknowledgement history and the building for the future. Now, here you can see up close one of those funny looking vehicles here, which, to me, it's almost comical making an off-road EV, considering, well, you're off-road, you're supposed to be in the middle of nowhere. Well, spoiler alert, not a lot of charging stations in the middle of nowhere. A little bit easier to just put some extra gasoline in tanks to throw in the back, or if you're British, petrol. Now, Decker says, quote, well, the number we put out there was that over 80% of repair orders are capable in fields. That means in a consumer's driveway or literally in the fields. Philosophically, forget the facts, forget what about specific orders. We want to make these vehicles that consumers can touch and take care of. We find inspiration from Scouts past on the front, right? A company that was born from a farm. Farm equipment needs to work long. It needs to be durable. Something breaks, you need to be able to fix it. So, does that manifest in a few ways in pure technology perspective? Things can be accessible. Maybe things aren't glued, they're screwed, right? Things can be more easily to repair yourself, which, again, that would be awesome if it's so simple you can just use a good old-fashioned, I was going to say if you feel so inclined, maybe use an old-school wooden screwdriver, which I think only myself and 3 people use. But realistically, use a drill and you actually just unscrew or screw the things back on. If it's just like adult Legos, that'd be awesome. You don't have to pay a tack to do it. I mean, who knows how much they want to charge to get these parts to you. Maybe we'll find out. They say, quote, the trick is deciding where to draw the line. Fortunately, many of the answers emerged naturally from the design process. The, quote, seamless and fused look common with the new EVs was called out in early iterations of the Scout's design, Decker said, which naturally led to an iteration with discrete bumpers. Decker continued saying, quote, we of course had a couple of different design evolutions. One of the earliest examples of feedback we got, one of the earliest design evolutions was the bumpers look a little too nice, unquote. In a world of high-strength adhesives and gigacast vehicle bodies, fastening components together is decidedly old-fashioned. Single-piece bodies and adhesive bonding make for stronger, more efficient designs, but at the cost of accessibility. The point raised about the aesthetics of the integrated bumper look led to questions of durability and repair. After all, this should one have to remove an entire side panel to fix a dent? No. Decker says it's meant to be used. And you can see a picture of their truck there, which, kind of looks like a bastardized Rivian if you ask me, but I guess some might like that aesthetic. They say to fix or upgrade this, Scout knows as above all the consumer is counting on wants to be able to tinker. They want to be able to touch cars, they want to fix them, they want to accessorize them, they want to occasionally take the front bumper off so they can go bouldering, unquote. Even so, Scout doesn't want its consumers to have to rely on the broader internet to figure things out. Another item in the company's punch list is transparent repair guides and manuals are accessible to the end consumer. But again, what's a modern EV? It's like completely a black box. You can't touch anything, Decker said, unquote. For the time being, Color is optimistic, but the Scout Traveler and Terra EV won't hit showrooms for at least 2 years, maybe even longer. Given the current political climate, things may even change. After all, Scout's initial no ice promises have been revised to, okay, well, maybe a little bit ice. What can we say? Once bitten, twice shy. So, again, this would be really cool from a consumer rights perspective aspect and right to repair. If they can get to be a lot, because again, a lot of components of a vehicle don't need to be too complex. It should be plug and play or just simple adult Legos in terms of repairing it. Now, again, the biggest issue though, still, it's an EV, and overall, it's a glorified smartphone on wheels. So in terms of repairing it, the core engine, or in this case, the motors and the battery, all that's gonna be locked down. You can bet your bottom dollar. So physically, you might be able to fix a couple things on this vehicle, and it'll be cool if you just pop it off and just wrench it right back in. Especially when compared to the other manufacturers where they're pretty tight. And remember, when Tesla first came out, they were notorious for never sending any parts out. Like if you wanted to fix it yourself. Most famously, Rich Rebuilds on the YouTube talked about how he salvaged like 10 different destroyed Teslas so that he would have spare parts so that he could actually repair the one that he was repairing himself. And even then, Tesla locked him out using software so you can get the supercharging capabilities. It's a whole thing. So if you have a company that's more transparent and more able to give you the right to repair it, it'll be pretty cool. Now, if they really want to hit the ground running, I suggest they actually have a gas engine vehicle. Again, I think a diversified portfolio for most automotive companies makes sense, especially in the U.S., where one of the biggest adoption rates in the U.S. for car sales is hybrids. That seems to be where a lot of the market is moving. Some people arguing it's the best, or I would argue the worst of both worlds. Personally, me, I always want to have 3 pedals and manual transmission, but I know I'm in the minority in that regard. But let me know, do you think this is enough to put Scout on the map, so to say? And they have the backing of Volkswagen, that's a parent company, so they have some, funds behind them. But there's a high rate of failures when it comes to, new EV car companies. Do you think they'll make it? And do you think this could be the differentiating factor that kind of puts them on the map and gets consumers really excited? Let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in again. Again, try to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.